Today, we will delve into an incredibly crucial topic for everyone aiming to maintain their mental health and prevent debilitating diseases. We will talk about the 10 main foods that can cause dementia. To understand this issue thoroughly, it is essential to also grasp some of the underlying mechanisms that drive the progression of dementia and how certain foods are intricately connected to this process. Dementia progresses very, very quickly as people age. For example, between the ages of 60 and 65, about 1.33% of individuals are affected by dementia. As we move to the age group of 65 to 70 years old, this number rises to approximately 2.2%. Then, for those aged 70 to 75, it climbs to 3.8%, and from 75 to 80 years old, it reaches 6.5%. 5 years later, the prevalence jumps to 11.6%, and by the time we reach 90 years old, more than 20% of the population suffers from dementia. Astonishingly, after the age of 90, more than 40% of the population is affected by this condition. As you can see, dementia progresses at an alarming rate, and it is crucial for us to understand the causes and the foods that influence this progression to slow it down effectively. The brain requires a few key things to help it remain functional. The first essential element is energy. Despite making up only about 2% of your body weight, the brain consumes more than 20% of your total energy. On average, the brain is 10% more metabolically active than other cells in the body and thus needs a significant amount of energy. The brain generates this energy from fuels such as carbohydrates and ketones. To oxidize these fuels, it needs oxygen. Most of this energy is produced within your cells in small structures called mitochondria, which generate the majority of all your energy. Another critical need for the brain is stimulation. Without regular stimulation, the brain begins to degenerate and deteriorate, much like a muscle. If you immobilize a muscle, such as by putting an arm in a cast after a break, you will lose about 50% of that muscle mass within 2 weeks. The brain operates in a similar way. Without regular signals and stimulation, the brain starts to deteriorate. This lack of stimulation is one of the key mechanisms that contribute to the development of dementia. Next, we must consider factors that damage the brain and accelerate its degeneration. One significant factor, of course, is poor genetics. However, it is important to understand what this means. Most people think that DNA is fixed and immutable, which, in a sense, it is. Your genome, the composition of your DNA, is half from your mother and half from your father, combined to form your unique genetic makeup. This is something you are born with and cannot change. Nevertheless, there is also epigenetics, which refers to how your genes are expressed. You might have bad genes that never get activated or good genes that you express poorly or well. Another critical factor is disuse. Without regular stimulation and signals, the brain begins to deteriorate. Exercise, for instance, is not just about losing weight, getting fit, or looking good, it is also about stimulating the brain and keeping it active. Then we come to inflammation, the biggest biochemical driver of degeneration, particularly chronic low-grade inflammation. Several components contribute to this, including oxidative stress. We need some oxidative stress to produce energy, as mitochondria use oxygen to create it. However, if there is too much waste in the body, mitochondria can become less efficient, producing more oxidative stress and less energy. Environmental toxins, including pollution and additives in foods like preservatives and artificial colorings, also contribute to inflammation. Food allergies can cause inflammatory reactions that add to this burden. Dysbiosis, an imbalance of gut bacteria, is another critical factor. If you don't have enough beneficial bacteria or have too many pathogenic ones, it creates chaos in the gut, leading to inflammation and damage to the intestinal lining and mucosal layer. This results in a leaky gut, which increases food allergies and further inflammation. All these factors are interconnected, and when one thing isn't functioning properly, it exacerbates everything else. The number one food, in no particular order, is excess alcohol. Drinking heavily and frequently can cause premature dementia because alcohol is a neurotoxin that directly damages brain cells. Additionally, excessive alcohol consumption can lead to a leaky gut, contributing to food allergies and inflammation. It also causes fatty liver, which increases insulin resistance, another inflammatory factor. Over time, these factors can cause brain shrinkage. It is crucial to remember that the problem is not alcohol itself but the excess. A glass of wine or two a few times a week has some positive effects, but consuming 4, 5, or 6 drinks on most days will likely accelerate brain degeneration. The second food is refined carbohydrates. We need to understand what they are, focusing on added sugars, which are everywhere. We all know to look at labels and avoid added sugars, including white sugar, honey, glucose syrup, agave, and high fructose corn syrup. These sugars consist of glucose and fructose molecules, creating a disaccharide. The glucose part raises blood sugar, while fructose, processed in the liver, causes fatty liver similar to alcohol. Excess sugar consumption lacks a natural limit, unlike alcohol, leading to early fatty liver even in children. Natural sugars, found in fruits, are generally safe in moderation unless you have insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. However, drying fruits concentrates the sugar, sometimes with added chemicals, making them very sugary, like raisins. Juicing fruits removes fiber and cell walls, turning them into a sugary liquid similar to added sugar. Another carbohydrate type is starch. Eating starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes in moderation is fine, but processed grains remove fiber, raising blood sugar even faster than sugar. Starch is just chains of glucose molecules, and an enzyme called amylase in the mouth starts breaking them down immediately, raising blood sugar within minutes. The connection between glucose, insulin resistance, and dementia is so strong that dementia is sometimes called type 3 diabetes. This doesn't mean it's a separate type of diabetes but highlights the strong link. Understanding this connection requires recognizing the two fuels the brain can use, glucose and ketones. The brain relies heavily on glucose, but ketones have been critical for human survival and are crucial in infants, who are born in ketosis. High sugar and starch intake regularly raises blood glucose, leading to excess insulin and eventual insulin resistance. Until recently, we believed the brain could absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without needing insulin. However, we now know that the brain depends on insulin. If your body, including brain cells, becomes insulin resistant, your brain gets less glucose, despite high blood sugar levels. This paradox means that the more sugar you consume, the more your brain starves. Some might think the body is flawed, but it's a flawed lifestyle. In the last 50 to 100 years, we've introduced an abundance of sugar and processed starch, never seen before. The third food is sugar. It is the #1 cause of insulin resistance, keeping glucose out of the brain. Cutting carbs enough to produce ketones can fuel the brain and reverse this process. Sugar is worse than starch because it contains 50% fructose, causing fatty liver and being highly addictive, disrupting the gut biome and leading to leaky gut and more allergies. The fourth food is fish. Clean, wild-caught fish can be incredibly beneficial for the brain, containing omega-3, EPA, and DHA, essential for brain tissue. However, wild fish can contain mercury, a heavy metal neurotoxin that damages brain tissue. Small fish like sardines and herring are safer, while large predatory fish like swordfish and tuna accumulate more mercury. Farmed fish, often raised in poor conditions and fed low-quality food, can also contain hormones, antibiotics, and chemicals. The fifth group is the dirty dozen, plants often treated with many pesticides. Pesticides are toxic to the body and brain. This year's list includes strawberries, apples, grapes, and spinach. Organic options or avoiding these foods is beneficial, especially for those sensitive to toxins. The impact of pesticides is significant, especially given their modern, widespread use over the last 50 years, contrasting with our genetic history. The sixth food group includes artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose. These disrupt gut bacteria, causing leaky gut, inflammation, and allergies. Aspartame, a known neurotoxin, and sucralose, found in thousands of products, recently linked to DNA damage, are harmful. Natural sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit are better options but should be used moderately. The seventh group is bad fats, especially trans fats and processed vegetable oils. These oils, high in omega-6, are often damaged during processing, causing inflammation and oxidation. Frying in vegetable oils exacerbates these issues. Saturated fats are stable and safe, providing a steady energy source. The eighth food includes those increasing food sensitivity, like lectins in nightshades, eggplant, bell pepper, tomato, and grains, modern wheat, barley, rice. Lectins cause inflammation and gut damage. Restoring gut health and microbiome balance can help tolerate these foods. The ninth food is excess caffeine. While low doses can improve focus and energy, high doses become a stressor, overloading the endocrine system and increasing stress hormones, disrupting sleep and circadian rhythm. Limiting to 2 cups a day is advisable. The 10th group includes food additives like artificial colors and preservatives. These chemicals, added for appearance and texture, are toxic. Preservatives make food unappealing even to microorganisms, indicating poor nutritional quality. If you enjoyed this video and want to master health by understanding how